We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
You have to let it all go, Neo. Fear, doubt, and disbelief. Free your mind.
I just want to make an impact, a positive impact on as many people as possible.
You gotta want to succeed as bad as you want to breathe.
When you're down, you might feel like you want to give up. Don't stop. Keep moving. Keep breathing.
There's a war on consciousness in our society.
There is an awakeness, an awareness that sees it all. And it's in you too. It's in all of us.
We have to stop consuming our culture. We have to create culture.
This is the G and Coletti Show.
Let's begin.
On this episode of the G and Coletti Show, we got to speak with an incredible human being, the Iceman, Wim Hof, holder of 21 world records and considered by some to be superhuman. Some of his feats are mind-blowing, but what I found even more mind-blowing is the fact that he believes anyone could do what he does. Believing is one thing, seeing is another, and Wim is actually teaching people how to do these incredible things, like climb Mount Kilimanjaro in nothing but a pair of shorts.
While healing from my injuries just over 2 short years ago, I went on an obsessive quest to find people that were able to do the impossible. Now, the doctors told me that healing wasn't likely, so I was looking for people that had extraordinary abilities and could prove otherwise. I came across martial artists, intuitives, energy workers, and many other healing modalities that claim to have done something miraculous. But who knows, really? It's really hard to vet any of this information, and if you search long enough, you'll find people disproving these concepts online. And it's really easy to feel helpless and cynical about the entire thing. But then there's Wim Hof, and I'm not saying that other healers aren't real, but he's the only one that does not require any amount of blind faith. He is as proven and scientifically approved as one could be. The universities and doctors in the Netherlands study him, and now they're working with him to advance scientific research. He is a modern-day Superman, and like most great superheroes, he's using his powers for the good of humanity.
It's funny sometimes how you can manifest or attract things into your life. I only heard about Wim Hof less than a year ago as I was looking for videos to play in a workshop I run here at the Collective Evolution office. I couldn't stop thinking about the guy and the incredible things he was doing. A few months later, me and Coletti were at the Bulletproof Conference in Pasadena, and who shows up unannounced? You guessed it. I was totally blown away. I rushed over to get a quick video selfie picture with him, and I mumbled out a few words that probably didn't make any sense at all. I'll post that video up for you guys to view on our website. Now, before we start, we just have to read a little disclaimer because it's very important that you take the breathing methods very seriously. So always do the breathing exercise in a safe environment, either sitting on a couch or floor and unforced. Never practice it before or during diving, driving, swimming, taking a bath, or any other environment or place where it might be dangerous to faint. The breathing exercise has a profound effect and should be practiced the way it is explained. The cold is a strong force. We strongly advise you to gradually build up exposing yourself to the cold. Always train without force and listen to your body carefully. If not practiced responsibly, you risk hypothermia or an after drop. If you have health issues, please always consult a doctor first before practicing. So if you haven't heard of Wim Hof, he is the Iceman, the real deal.
The Iceman is somebody who thinks there is more between earth and heaven. That's the Iceman, but for that, you gotta break something more than the ice. It's in the mind. What I have achieved now is breaking through that wall. And that wall has been crumbling down by ongoing scientific studies. But first, I had to go look into nature. Nature's got the answers, not the books. So the present situation in the world, to me, that asks for explorers, pioneers. It asks for people who are having courage, a feeling for life. There is more. We have to go through our fear, our old ways of thinking.
So before he was the Iceman, he was in, I guess, a tough situation, and he was trying to find himself. And I think a lot of people that listen to our podcast are in a similar situation. They're what some people may refer to as seekers. Someone who is, consistently making an effort to grow or to learn and just trying to find out more about themselves and their place in the world. So it seems like Wim went through that, and it took him a lot of different types of things. Like he said, he studied esoteric teachings, and finally he found it in nature, in the cold.
I love the way he kind of figured things out, that eventually you have to learn internally. You didn't learn it in a book. He didn't learn it at a course, not on the internet in some blog post, or maybe not even on a podcast. But nature was his teacher. The cold was the teacher, and he was forced to learn because he was in such a position of pain that, he was just under the pressure that he had to get out of there.
It's a question we ask. What causes someone to change? What causes someone to evolve? And a lot of times, those uncomfortable feelings, those fears, that something that's itching at them that they don't understand, and then it pushes them to become a different person or a better person.
And a lot of motivational speakers and motivational theory has to do with the power of positivity and yes I can. But in my case, the power of no, the power of pain, the power of being in darkness can actually force you to move. And I think it can be even more powerful that you'll try to avoid pain and get away from it. And just that he's under that tremendous amount of pressure to move, that he can, do the impossible and discover things that are, I would consider genius.
So I went into nature after many years of looking into all kinds of esoteric disciplines, languages, traditions, cultures, philosophies, etc., religions. I came across the cold water. And the cold water is like merciless but righteous. It brings you back just where you are, who you are, and what you are. It brings you back into the depth. If you follow cold water, he's my teacher. He is my guru. He is my whatever. And nobody else. It's not impersonal. It brought me back directly into the depth of myself, making sense from within. Yes, this is it, the cold water. From there, I started to go into cold water every day, like a regular practice, because I felt so good afterwards all the time. And I changed my breathing patterns there, because you need oxygenation to get into cold water. Cold water asks for oxygen to combust, to heat up into the body. And that makes you feel good. And it brings back also the consciousness within, that you are able to control your power within to withstand the cold. So it connects the mind with the body in a way I never read in the books. So it was really direct. The Iceman, it's bringing about the inner fire. The connection between you and your metabolism. And now we know it's gotten into the cell, it's gotten into the DNA, it's gotten into the deepest part of the brain and all that. But then, those days when it all began, I felt just intuitively, this is it. I gotta follow this feeling. This feeling is a guide, step by step, to go deeper consciously inside my body. The breathing patterns changed, and I changed altogether. And that's the way the Iceman came about.
So I love what he says, first of all, about how you can't learn this kind of stuff in the books. And I think both of us can attest to that. There's something about real life experience where you get this deeper understanding, where you actually can feel and understand and learn, rather than just trying to understand conceptually. The second thing was about intuition. Somehow he jumped in some freezing cold water and he felt amazing. And he said that's how he started breathing. So I don't know if it was like, when you go in cold water, what happens?
Well, you start to hyperventilate.
You start breathing fast. Somehow, intuitively.
Hyperventilate?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Hyperventilate?
I think so, yeah. Hyperventilation.
Is it hyperventilate when you have a panic attack?
I think it's the same sort of thing. Anyways, so he slowed down his breath and basically calmed himself down, a form of meditation, a form of breathing, which he sort of later incorporated into his practice.
Well, to touch upon your first point, I think Tony Robbins mentions it, that the fact that he says you could know something and then you could actually really know something. You couldn't have Bruce Lee tell you every day about Kung Fu and then 10 years later you can do Kung Fu. The best teacher is through practical application.
Taking a few shots in the head.
And then you'll remember, exactly. Yeah. You'll know what it feels like. I can't just tell you how to throw a punch. You won't know. And I think there's a lot of interesting theories we can think about how he came across the cold. And, I almost think that, the sour taste makes the sweet taste sweeter. If you were in such an uncomfortable situation as going into the freezing cold, when you come back in, you'd probably feel a lot better. It would be like...
You always go down that route, Coletti. Same with ayahuasca. But there's something about that cold. Maybe it is that. But I think there's more than that coming out.
Well, there's a
cold.
name, and we'll look it up. There's people that hurt themselves and they find there's some joy in that. There's some, I don't know if this is some freaky sexual thing, but you find some joy in being relieved of that pain. So you create the pain, you put it into your life, and then you were relieved.
I don't know what kind of websites you've been watching recently, but we'll just leave it at that. Okay.
Yeah. So I should clear my browser.
I think so.
Once you begin to follow your feeling again, then you will come across crossroads of making decisions. Don't have this mind dominating that situation, but your feeling. If you follow your feeling, then intuition is leading you toward realizing the way you are there for real. It's a perfect way. It's a subtle way. It's a precise way. Follow your feeling. So in the end, it comes upon the way of the heart, the way of the feeling. Intuition is here, and it's there all the time. Just don't block it anymore and go more into it. If you want to meditate on that. But actually, it's every day, and it's there. Realize your dream. It's time. We work on deadlines, and we have to be occupied with this and preoccupied with that. And we actually serve a system, but the system should actually change roles and serve us in our happiness, strength, and health. And that is done by following the feeling, your feeling. So intuition has brought me where I am right now, and we are going to break the wall with this subtle energy. I'm going to follow that one. If there is God, it's intuition.
Wim Hof also holds many Guinness World Records, some really crazy ones that make people put him in the superhuman class.
Some of the stuff is insane. In 2009, he climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in nothing but shorts and shoes, and he did that in 2 days. Now, this mountain is notorious for, killing and taking the lives of between 3 to 7 people per year.
Per year,
And they're doing that with gear. They're doing that with training, and he basically doesn't even have a shirt on. And just to give you an idea of the temperatures, at the top of Mount Kilimanjaro at night, it's between -7 and -29 degrees Celsius.
So it's 0 to 20 Fahrenheit for your American listeners.
Yeah, so it's absolutely freezing, and he doesn't have a shirt on. So
yeah, it's crazy. He has also done some other really incredible feats. Like he holds the record for being submerged under ice for the longest. I think he broke his record a couple times, but the most recent one is 1 hour and 52 minutes.
Exactly, and he's not actually just his skill set isn't just towards the cold. He was able to run in a hot. I don't know where I find it.
Full marathon.
He was able to run a full marathon in the Namib.
That was good. Namib Desert.
It's the Namib Desert, and he did it without water. Now, you got to be kidding me. I can't even walk.
The doctor's supervision, but still, in a desert without water, you can't even walk to the car without a glass of water.
Absolutely. So he can control his body temperature completely, not just against the cold.
But what blew my mind the most was when I asked him what his greatest feat was.
Yeah, the greatest achievement is taking away the suffering. But personally, all this macho bullshit thing, BBC was calling me, and they said, we are doing a program on superhumans. Wow, hey, the macho, wow, me and the superhumans, wow. We know you are the Iceman. Can you come up with a new challenge? I never run a full marathon then. I said, okay, I'm going to run a full marathon in shorts, in midwinter, beyond the polar circle. How about that? Yes. Things like that. It's taking up something into the unknown. And it brings about a feeling of excitement. 3 weeks later, I'm on the beyond the polar circle, in midwinter, in my shorts, running a untrained, no meter training, and then going for a full marathon and do it.
So before we address the insanity of what just happened there, I just want to note his greatest achievement was taking away the pain and suffering. And I think a lot of people could agree with that, is if you're in a bad place for a long time and can't get out, he found a way out all by himself, what seemed almost impossible.
Exactly. And it makes a lot of sense that that's his key ability to be able to, run the desert or spend, long amounts of time in the cold, is he can basically fight the pain.
So now let's talk about, you get a call, BBC wants to interview you, wants you to do something crazy. In the whim of the moment, no pun intended, polar circle, shorts,
In 3 weeks.
In 3 weeks, no
With
training, power of the mind.
He's never run a marathon ever.
Insane.
Yeah, that's pretty
Insane.
crazy.
But what's more insane about this guy here is that not only can he do all this stuff, he can actually train people how to do it in a very short amount of time. And I'm not just talking about young, fit guys like yourself. Maybe I'll put myself into that young, fit category. Yeah. But we're talking like old people, like really old people.
You know, I did numbers, things, even with groups of people. Last January, I climbed Kilimanjaro with a person, 29 of them, but the oldest man was 76 years old without prior mountaineering experience, and he did it in 44 hours up to Mount Kilimanjaro, like 6,000 meters. Breathing, focus, connection. That's it. He's a new man, 76 years old.
So they're currently doing research on the ability to change people's DNA, and there's a possibility that it could have life-extending abilities. So this is some really cutting-edge, interesting stuff. But it's not just for these kind of feats of strength or a 76-year-old climbs a mountain. There's actual practical applications, especially in sports. So he's working with an MMA fighter, one of my favorite fighters, Alistair Overeem. Now, Alistair was coming from a different organization. Long story short, his physique kind of changed. Let's say his training method, diets, I'm not going to say anything particular, kind of changed. He lost a lot of muscle, and he had to come to the UFC and fight Junior Dos Santos, who's an absolute murderer for the heavyweight title. And he was training with Wim, and Wim says that he increased his, I'm assuming his VO2 max or just his abilities. He says 15%, whatever that means.
After being at a plateau for a couple of years.
He's been fighting forever. And he knocked out Junior Dos Santos, who's an absolute murderer, and everybody was completely shocked. So I don't know if we can completely chalk that one up to Wim.
I'm betting on the next guy Wim trains. I'm putting money on whoever he's fighting next. So just to give you guys a quick rundown of what the Wim Hof method is. It's basically 3 components. One is cold exposure, obviously, exposure to the cold temperatures, which has actually been proven in a study to actually increase white blood cell count. But we'll talk a little bit more about that later. The second part is breathing technique. So it's almost like a hyperventilation, and also compared to tumo breathing, the inner fire type breathing. And the third part is a meditation. And so either 1, 2, or 3 of them combined is allowing people to tap into systems within the body that science thought was unattainable. You couldn't tap into it, like the autonomous nervous system or the endocrine system or the immune system. And Wim said, yes, we can do it. And he's proving it in the laboratory. Not only that he can do it, but he can teach others to do it as well.
So I know you're a few weeks into the course. You're doing the meditating. You've done some cold showers. I believe you even did an ice bath or a cold shower for about 7 minutes. So tell me what you're experiencing.
About 10 minutes, the ice cold shower. It's crazy. You actually start feeling something right away. The breathing techniques are intense. You get lightheaded a little bit. At times you might feel like you're going to pass out. And in one of them, you do this deep breathing, like in and out, like fully in, fully out. And you get to a point where you do it for about 30 times. Then you exhale all the way out and you hold your breath. And so you exhale all the way out, but then you feel like you've just somehow oxygenized your body or your blood, and you don't have to breathe right away. So I can hold my breath at about 2 minutes now after an exhale, which is, for me, is crazy.
Yeah, that's pretty. I actually tried that, and I think before when we experimented in the pool before we knew about the Wim Hof method, I was at about 45 seconds, 50 seconds max, and I was able to do 2.5 minutes.
Yeah. Another thing that is crazy is the cold showers. You feel amazing after.
Okay, so what do you do? Walk me through it in the morning. You go into the shower. You start the water. What are you doing?
Right now, I'm straight into cold for 10 minutes, which is tough. It feels like an hour. Before they're easing you in, so it's a regular warm shower, last 30 seconds cold, and then week 2, it's like start a little bit cold, warm, and now it's like 10 minutes cold. So I'll put it probably about 3/4 of the way cold for half of it, then I'll go full blast cold, which is like freezing. And
okay, so are you developing the ability to not feel the cold, so the cold doesn't bother you?
My chest, stomach doesn't feel at all. Like the head and neck is pretty sensitive still if I put it under. But I think it's because I'm coming in and out of the cold, so it's still warmer room temperature wherever the water is not directly hitting my body. But like I can definitely feel a difference. I'm not shivering. I don't feel like, oh my God, it's so cold. Like I'm hyperventilating. None of that. I can control the feeling.
So my question for you is the ability that you're learning through Wim. Is it the ability to fight through the pain and you're feeling it, or you're actually not feeling the cold at all?
Not feeling. No, I wouldn't say it's painful. It's you get your body into a state where you can just sort of your body adapts. It's that adaptation. And what he also says is controlling your systems after and turning them on and off, like he does in the endotoxin study, where they inject people with this endotoxin and you're expecting a response and they don't have that response. His body just fights it off. Something's triggered, the inflammation is triggered off.
Many people suffering from chronic pains in the world. They have no control. And now we have already shown in a completed study, which is going to be ongoing in the next 2 months. Then we have a full study on people who are connected with sensors and they increase electrical currents. And it already has shown that with the breathing exercises, they are very able to tolerate much more pain than normal, just by connecting breathing and will. So that could be a solution for a whole lot of suffering in the world. Once again, it needs to be shown scientifically.
So the way I see it, the pharma industry basically makes products to relieve symptoms, say it's fever, coughing, headache, and really to control pain. And I guess they try to make things that are cures, but that's debatable. So do you think they're worried at all? Because if you can control pain, and you can do this internally with a breathing technique that you can learn over 2 months, and then you have that knowledge for the rest of your life. And he's proving it with researchers and MDs and scientists.
I think as this method catches more steam, it will show up on their radar, and they may be somewhat worried about it. But by all means, this is not an easy thing. This is work. It's a method that you have to put commitment and time and effort into. And I think most people would rather just take the easy fix, pop the pill, and worry about the side effects later. And for those that the pills aren't working for, I really think this is a very viable solution.
So far, it seems like a one-stop shop, and you learn these breathing techniques. The way he explains it seems like it's completely backed up, but it seems like it fixes everything.
If you're willing to do the work, I think it has so many applications, and it's a game changer.
And I know he has a crazy story about an 82-year-old woman that cured pain and whatnot. So,
an 82 years old lady just recently, and she had no prior ability or never done something with breathing. She had nerve pain because they made a mistake in the hospital. Nerves got cut through, inflammation all the time, burning sensation, life quality gone. Very creative woman, but now she couldn't work anymore. And then within a half hour, just by breathing, she could stay 2.5 minutes without air in the lungs. 82 years. Now she's able to control the nerve pain. And she's painting here. It's all about breathing. Breathe, motherfucker.
Just breathe, motherfucker.
Yeah.
So a few things really shocked me about our interview with Wim. The ability to produce adrenaline at will. Like he said, he could produce more adrenaline sitting in a bed than someone could on their very first bungee jump ever. That's kind of mind-blowing. Controlling pain, controlling all these kind of things, the autonomous nervous system, the endocrine system. But he started talking at one point about DMT and controlling access to the other world, which is the spirit molecule we talk about in ayahuasca, DMT. And he's saying that he can actually access that through meditation or through his method.
You see, now I think we're going a little too far. Now he has access to things that can almost hurt him. Do you think there's any down?
Who's saying anything about hurting? This is Coletti talking about that fear about hurting.
Well, DMT, adrenaline, now these are very strong, chemical responses, natural, but still very, very powerful. So, for instance, if he's playing around with it, can he have trouble driving? Maybe it can just come out of nowhere.
You're thinking like spontaneous release?
Exactly. It's a new technology.
I think his whole thing is about being able to control it at will. It's more, he's turning it on when he wants to. When he gets injected with the endotoxin, he turns on the response. When he focuses on turning on his adrenaline, he can do that when he wants to. I think that's the key.
I agree
with this method.
But he's a professional. The practice itself is still in its infancy. I wonder if somebody will just have a DMT experience in the middle of the day, just randomly.
I know where you're going with this. I really think it's not an easy thing to do. So you really have to focus on getting it done. But who knows? You could be right. You've been right many times before. So, so he said he's teaming up with Rick Strassman to make a sequel to the Spirit Molecule. This is unofficial, so don't quote me on it.
For people that don't know, who's Rick Strassman? Rick
Strassman is the author of the Spirit Molecule, which was the sort of put DMT on the map in the mainstream. It was on Netflix and all these things. So changed a lot of people's life. Got a lot of people into ayahuasca and asking about it or curious about it the first time. And he said melatonin minus CO2 equals DMT. So I guess he's saying by increasing the oxygen or reducing or taking away that CO2, the melatonin is converting into DMT. That's their hypothesis.
Okay, I take melatonin every night before bed, and I've never tripped out.
Because maybe you have way
So
too
if-
much CO2, or maybe.
So if I do the Wim Hof breathing technique and pop a melatonin, is there a chance?
I don't know the science behind it, but we'll definitely find out how it works. But he's saying that molecule, if you take out the CO2 somehow, I don't know what process would do that, it equals the same molecule as DMT.
Interesting.
Yes, I got many people who took ayahuasca and they say that because of these breathing techniques, they come about the same signs and the same lights. It's a natural process. Only we don't need an endogenous trigger no more. I'm gonna do study with that, and that's because they saw the blood results. They saw the resonances of the brain of which I produced. And then they came about, okay, so we can go as far to look and peep into the other side. That's okay, but it is not for nothing that we are on this side. The function of DMT is to go three-dimensional in the rapid eye movement sleep, in the deep sleep. Is anything that comes across during the day not being worked out is going to be worked out when you have closed eyes. You do this. Rapid eye movement, blah blah, but the deep sleep, and then it's being worked out, otherwise it's gonna block.
This is a really interesting concept that he brings up, and I really am looking forward to further research that he wants to do on this, because it makes sense that certain blocks that you get during the day or stresses, unless they're worked out at night, you're going to have an energetic block. And when ayahuasca is traditionally used in a ceremony, it goes to untangle these emotional blocks that you've had throughout your lifetime. So I'm really curious to see where they go with this. Maybe this is the real purpose of dreams.
We should be thinking like the rabbit. A rabbit, one day before he's dying, he is still able to flee, to fight, to eat, to mate, even one day before dying. And we lost this power. Now you see these older people in society, they go to elder home, like that. A lot of pills, a healthy industry on those people. A lot of pills, like 20 every hour or something, all kinds of colors, looks like candy. It's sick. People should be healthy until they die.
So this is pretty incredible. Why do we think we have this general progression in life where we get older, and as we get older, we slowly digress it's not digress, sorry, I said the wrong word.
I think digress, yeah.
Digress. So we just get older, we get weaker, we even get smaller, and eventually, I guess we just slowly wither away and then one day die. Instead of, like he said, the Native Americans that will have a celebration, they'll dance, they'll get to say goodbyes in good health.
The rabbit too. Like why can't we be like rabbit? I think we're more evolved than a little animal. Why can't we be at our fullest right to the last day of our life? We should be.
And this almost implies that we have control over our death. Do you believe we can let go? I know there's situations where people were sick in the hospital and they waited for their entire family to come there before they died, but can you just release like that?
I think if you look at a lot of the Vedic and ancient philosophies, they talk about your release into the afterlife, going off on a soft, safe journey. But I'm really not too sure 100% about that, but it's something that I really think about, and I'm curious, what kind of control we have in letting ourselves go and opening up, through possibly DMT into, the spirit world.
People should be healthy until they die, like the natives before. And when they go to die, they dance and do whatever, and then they sit, they sleep, and have a great outgoing. And then DMT comes. Wow, that's spiritual. Because there is more out there, but as long as you live, you should live 100%, and not the way we do right now.
When it's my time to go, I hope to be like the natives and have a safe, gentle journey to the other side. But, I asked Wim, how far do you think this can go, this application, once we start tapping into human potential? Like, we already know the placebo effect, and what he's doing is remarkable, but how far can we take this if everyone starts getting on board?
We can go finally to have harmony on this beautiful planet of ours and to understand and live the wonder of life itself. And then there is no limit. I once had a TED conference with a professor, and he was telling something very sensible. He said, he showed a map of the world, and he saw all these lines in between, like America, there's South America, there's Havana, there's Cuba, Russia, Czechoslovakia, I don't know, all these lines. We made up these lines, and we are going to throw them away, because this is a free world. There is no limit. Limits are gonna go, and the limits gonna go means we gotta feel. We gotta feel and making sense. And in making sense, there is no limit. And everybody becomes happy over there, strong and healthy. And from there, anything you want to create is possible. Being creative is happiness. From creativity, anything can evolve. Now, at the existent situation is that only 7% in the world is being able to create. So, and then 100%, that's going to create such a synergy, so beautiful. I had this friend, he was an astronaut, and he went up in space, and he told me, and they went up, and then he looked around for the first time, there in the spacecraft, and looking around. It's lifeless, it's cold, there is nothing up there. Then looking down, wow, the planet. And that's where we live. Where we live is the most beautiful spot in all the universe. So we have to come together and live in harmony with this beautiful place of ours and have no depression, no disease, no limitation in our brain of doing what we have as our dreams. Because the natives, they were right. Whatever is in you, just expand and make it happen. Realize what you are in harmony with nature.
The applications are astounding, whether it be for pain reduction, for increasing your athletic abilities, for becoming healthier, to increase your immune system. Who knows where the next 10 years of research will take this? You know, I would strongly encourage anybody to check it out, his 10-week course, to try it for yourself and really experience, what breathing and cold exposure can do for you. If you go to collective-evolution.com/G and Coletti, there'll be links to all this information and much more. We barely scratched the surface on some of the scientific stuff because basically I'm not a scientist and probably wouldn't explain it properly.
I always say I have no fear for death. I fear not to live. So I'm into living. And the rest, fear, will subside because of the presence of intuition. Intuition is my God. Intuition comes from the heart. Intuition is the right knowledge, the natural one. It's within all of us, and it brings about happiness, strength, and health. And it really is my guide. So, fuck fear, man. It's for the stupid. For the dominance of the brain, brought in by the church and the religions and the power thing. No, just be happy, strong and healthy every day and enjoy the wonder of life.
Thanks again, everyone, for all your support. We really appreciate it, and thanks for listening. You can check us out, www.collective-evolution.com/G and Coletti. You can follow us on iTunes. Please leave a review as it really helps us get out there. And thanks for listening. A very special thanks to TIMEWHEEL for providing some of the tracks on this podcast.